The 2025 NFL schedule is out. Welcome, Panthers fans. I am Cassidy Hill, joined by Jake Delhomme from his home in Louisiana, but he and I both have the NFL schedule in hand. How exciting. Jake, who did you bribe to get the NFL schedule?
Well, really no one, but I'm telling you, I'm like a kid at Christmas. I love when the schedule comes out. I always did as a player, and especially now broadcasting the games. I love to kind of look at the schedule. I guess because I'm starving for football, right? We
Yeah.
had the couple of weeks ago, and so you kind of always craving the football, and it can't get here soon enough. So I love to see how the schedule when it comes out and things like that, and just kind of how the season in my mind would play out.
Yeah. Did you pay attention to it much when you were actually playing, or was it kind of just get on the plane whenever they told you to?
No, I did because it was in the off season, right? So that's when it would come out. So a little more time on your hand. But that was something that I think as a quarterback, I know for me, I always looked at, okay, where are the cold weather
Mm-hmm.
games? Who do we play somebody up north late in the season? Never really worried about playing Tampa early in the
Yeah.
season with I guess just because I thought Charlotte, we had a ton of heat and things like that, and coming from Louisiana, felt very comfortable in the heat and humidity. I
Yeah.
think the biggest thing was always late in the season, and you want to see primetime games. The
Right.
primetime another thing that I always used to like to look at because, yeah, I think if you ask any player, they love to play at 1 o'clock on
Mm-hmm.
Sunday because we're so routine oriented. But you like those primetime games to showcase your team. I think that's
Yeah.
something as a player, that's something that you really enjoy.
Well, we're going to look through this schedule and see if there are any primetime games this year. You mentioned the cold weather games. I was talking to DB, Derek Brown, and Robert Hunt last week and asked them, do you care about when the schedule comes out, like what it looks like? And they both said the same thing. I just want to know when that Green Bay game is this year. And they were like, I would love like a week 2 September, nothing in December. But as I mentioned, the schedule has been allowed out of the vault. The NFL keeps it under lock and key. They let it out at 8 p.m. tonight, and we are right here ready to go through it with you. So, Jake, we're going to go through this week by week really quick. And
Sure.
then I kind of just want to go back over it and get your analysis as a former player and as someone who knows this particular team really well as an analyst for Panthers Radio. So you ready?
I am ready to go.
Let's do it. We're going to go real quick over the preseason ones here. Cleveland Browns preseason game 1. That'll actually be a joint practice with the Browns as well. And, they're 17 quarterbacks. And then preseason 2 will go to the Houston Texans. Houston in August doesn't sound great, but that's an indoor stadium, so a little bit better. And then preseason 3, Pittsburgh comes here. Also another team that's got a lot of question marks. So that could be some interesting preseason games.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the Cleveland deal, you love the practicing together, the joint practices. I think those where you're going to get the majority of your work. And I know quarterback wise, my mind would think, okay, we get to go against Myles Garrett, right? One of the
Yeah.
premier defenders in the National Football League, really good defense. And then for us defensively, it's going to be different. Who's going to be the
Mm-hmm.
quarterback? And I would think some things will play themselves out before that. So, yeah, you got Cleveland, and you're going to have a really talented Houston football team,
Right.
kind of revamp their offensive line, but it's a talented football team. Been in the playoffs 2 years in a row. Then again, Pittsburgh, another
Mm-hmm.
very talented football team that you know what you're going to get. Third preseason game. See how much those starters play in that regard. Not sure who the quarterback will be. I think everybody's assuming it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. The announcement
Right.
at some point. Maybe after the schedule's released and he's looking at the schedule, he'll decide. But yeah, solid preseason
Yeah.
to get yourself ready for week 1.
Yeah, like you said, it'll be a lot of good question marks there. Okay, let's go into week 1. Week 1 will kick off September 7th. Panthers are going to go on the road to Jacksonville. So a Jacksonville game in early September.
Yeah, early September, and that's the whole heat issue that you can look at. But I still think September 7th, it's very warm in Charlotte, in the Carolina.
So you're going to be
You
hot
know,
no matter where you're at.
it's going to be hot no matter where you go, and certainly going to Jacksonville, there'll be some excitement in Jacksonville with the new coaching
Mm-hmm.
staff that has come in. Certainly, the talk will be the Trevor Lawrence. What are they going to do different with him? Travis Hunter.
Right.
That's going to be up so much. Is he going to be an offensive guy, defensive guy? So that's something that I think we'll look forward to because it depends on how much they're going to showcase him in the preseason. But a good start, an AFC opponent. We would always say that's an uncommon opponent because it's like every 4 years you would play that. But now with the added game, the 17th game, that gets kind of factored in. So we only played them, a year
2 years ago.
2 years ago. So, yeah, some familiarity there. Wasn't a great day for us, but looking forward to going to Jacksonville. I think we're a new football team.
That was the game. That was Bryce's last game of his rookie year. I think he was sacked like 6 times. So this could be a nice little redemption game. And to your point, very early in the season, so excitement around Travis Hunter, but maybe also still some question marks on Jacksonville's part on how he gets used. So could work out.
What are they offensively?
Right.
What has Lee Cohen decided to do offensively with that team?
Yeah. Week 2, head right back out on the road to Arizona. Going to the desert. That's
going to the desert. Very hot. Good thing it's a dome. So, and one thing I think Arizona early in the season, I think you have to bring it every single week. But Arizona is usually a team that starts out really, really good, and they have faded the last couple of years. But that's something.
A couple of years ago, they started 8-0.
Yeah, exactly. And we've played well against them the last few times we played against Arizona. So that's going to be a good challenge. Every game's a challenge. Yeah. But week 2 on the road, 2 weeks back-to-back on the road to start the season. So that's something that we can look on the back end and appreciate some of the home games later on. But another road test going to Arizona against a quality football team that's quietly building. They're a solid team. I think they had a pretty good draft, and they're quietly adding to that roster.
Yeah, defense especially has been more tough in recent years. Week 3, finally get your home opener, and it is a divisional opponent, the Atlanta Falcons. Get them early in the season.
Yeah, and at home, in the first division game. And that's something that as we go through, we'll talk about what the rest of the division looks like. But get Atlanta early. Still, young quarterback in Penix and the 2 draft picks, the 2 first-round picks, their defensive ends that they wanted to draft outside linebackers. And so they're trying to address the defense. We know they're a pretty talented team on offense, a ton of weapons on offense, receiver-wise, running back-wise. So, yeah, but to get that division game at home against Atlanta Falcons, that's going to be exciting. Yeah. You'd love to be 2-0 to go into that game, have Bank of America Stadium, kind of have it rocking. You know what I mean? It gets going as the season goes on whenever things are going well. But, man, open up division game at home against Atlanta. That's quality there.
Yeah, that'll be a good home opener. Week 4, right back out on the road, heading up the coast to New England Patriots. Another team that, a quarterback that a lot of people here in Carolina are very familiar with, and Drake May. And then, they drafted Will Campbell pretty early on in the draft this year. But, again, a new head coach for them, but someone that's been in the league a long time. Do you think that that's a good game to get this early in the schedule?
Yeah, I do. I'm liking that it's early in the season, to be very honest. I think that's a team that can be a sleeper team. I think Drake May is still young. Still learning, so it will only be his 4th game in Josh McDaniels' offense. But Mike Vrabel, he's just quality. He's a quality head football coach. You know what you're going to get with these teams. They're going to be unbelievably well coached, special teams-wise, situationally. They're going to be really coached, and they're going to be hard. This is a team that it's going to be a fist fight. Yeah. And I love that December 28th. The weather most likely will be good. You'll get a little reprieve from the heat and humidity that hopefully will start to subside, but that's usually nice. And at least it's not late in the year in New England.
Right.
I know we talked about Green Bay and where that's going to be located on the schedule, but get New England early on, that's another positive. And we're starting with that division, that AFC division. This is where we play those, so we're starting with that division.
Yeah, I think other than Arizona and Atlanta, 2 AFC teams in that first 4. And then come home and get another one. Week 5 is going to be at home versus the Miami Dolphins, back into that AFC division there. I feel like that's a game that could go either way. There's so many question marks there with just Miami as a whole, and it's in that part of the season where you're starting to learn more about teams.
It is, and that's something Miami, there's a lot of question marks. I think we all know, too, with Tyreek Hill and that bunch, but they had some issues at the offensive line last year, and certainly defensively. we don't know what their personnel is going to be like. I
Right.
think no one really knows what's going to happen there defensively. But we've had some struggles against Miami the last few times we've played them, albeit it's been in Miami. So it'd be
Mm-hmm.
good to get them back at home. And the thing that I love, and we'll hit it a little bit, like we starting out the season with, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 4 or 5. This is 5 games we're starting with the teams that were not in the playoffs last year. So this
Oh,
is I kind of like I like looking at it like that also.
that's a great point. And I'm interested to see like how that kind of lands once we look at the whole schedule too.
Sure.
So stay at home for week 6 versus the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, at this point, are the Cowboys buying condos in Charlotte? This is the 3rd year in a row that we've hosted the Cowboys here at Bank of America.
Yeah, we certainly know how the Dallas fans travel, and the last couple of times we've hosted them, it was later in the season,
Mm-hmm.
and things weren't going well, and so Dallas really filled up that stadium. I think that's the biggest thing when I look at that. My deal is that needs to be a Carolina like true home game. I mean, that's
Yes.
something that we need to start out the season well, play well, want our fans to love us. But like this is where that's just how my mind works. Like, no, we owe these guys. They've come
Yeah.
in, they take over the stadium. Those fans from Dallas, and it hasn't gone our way against them. So another team that wasn't in the playoffs last year that got the best of us late in the season when we started to play better, and that was a bump in the road against us. And so that's a team that there's always going to be a ton of media hype around the Dallas Cowboys.
Right.
So yeah, that's something that's another one I'm really looking forward to back to America Stadium.
Yeah, always a good one when you play the Star. Week 7, back up to the coast or back up the New England coast, going to New York, which means going to New Jersey, to play the Jets. Middle of October. I love that game just as somebody who loves New York City and wants to be there during the fall. You tell me the football side of it.
Well, that's another thing. A new head football coach with Justin Fields as a quarterback. So I'm
Right.
assuming it's going to be a team that's going to be a heavy run type of team, not turn the ball over. And they want to bring Aaron Glenn was a tough player, even though he was an undersized cornerback. He was tough. He wasn't afraid to tackle, wasn't afraid to hit somebody. Great cover guy. I think that's how he coaches. He coaches tough, and then coming from Detroit and that whole Dan Campbell, that's what they preach. They want to run the football and be tough. And so that's another team that was not in the playoffs last year.
Mm-hmm.
We certainly know they have pieces on defense. That's for certain.
Right.
And offensive line wise, they're investing heavily in their offensive line. So, but to New York, October 19th, again, weather. This kind of, in a way, it's set up for us. It's pretty good schedule wise,
Yeah.
weather wise.
We'll thank weather.com for that one. I'm sure they had a say in it. But to your point, I mean, Aaron Glenn with that defense, that'll be a really, really good, not quite midseason, but almost midseason test there for Bryce Young in this offense and Dave Canales. That'll be a fun one to watch. Come back home for week 8 to face Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen. A midseason game against Buffalo, I mean, that could go. Buffalo's so strong. Josh Allen is so strong, but that's one of those teams that seems to get stronger as the season goes on. Do you like them being there in week 8?
I'll be very honest. I mean, Buffalo's not a good opponent week 1 to week 18.
That's true.
They've established a great program. They really have. And so all the ex-Carolina Panthers from McDermott and Bean and everybody else, this would be kind of a homecoming for them to come back to Carolina. But yeah, Josh Allen and company, that's going to be a tough task. So think about it. Our first game against a playoff opponent from 2024 will be October 26th. So we've gone the whole season so far without playing someone that was in the playoffs. So Buffalo's coming in. No, be our hands full type of game. All games are. But again, wouldn't it be kind of meaningful? Like, hey, could this be the upstart Panthers, that quiet team that's kind of stayed quiet, finish the season okay, and if we can kind of stay healthy and kind of start to make a little run, it would be an awesome litmus test, to say the least.
And to your point, at that point, it starts a run of playoff teams.
Yeah, it does.
And it's not quite in a row, but there's a decent little run here because in week 9, we'll let DB and Robert Hunt know this one promptly. Week 9, head up to Green Bay. First weekend of November, again, to your point, weather-wise, I don't know if that could have worked out much better.
Yeah, that's really good. You would assume it would be chilly, at least somewhat, but you would doubt it's going to be the frozen tundra at that point.
Right.
But yeah, listen, that's a solid football team. We're going to play, and there's something magical about going to play in Green Bay. No matter who you are or how young. I know for me, I was, I'm 50 years old now, but there was something always magical to go to Lambeau and to play. And yes, they've modernized it some, but it's still that old walk, little tunnel
Yeah.
down to the stadium, and those are some passionate fans. It's a great environment. It's a fun game to go play because you just feel like you're on historic ground. So you're at Lambeau Field. But yeah, that's something that November 2nd, I know players will be happy about that.
This is such an aside, but you made the comment about like it's modernized, but you still feel like you're on historic ground. I worked there for a couple of years, and I remember sitting in the press box one day when it finally hit me because it's like they update this place every year to make sure it still has all of the modern amenities, but it does still feel like you could be sitting there in 1950. And I was like, why is it? What is the aesthetic that they have hit here? And I finally realized there are no ribbon boards in that stadium. You have two jumbotrons at each end that are just jumbotrons. That's it. But there's no ribbon boards in that stadium.
Well, I know as a player wise, there was something. I just think everything leading up to it. I mean, you're in a small town. It's not like it's big skyscrapers and things of that nature. You're in a small town. People park in people's yards for the game. Real friendly. They all wave at you, and it's a different feel. And you go in the locker room, and then that walk,
that little bitty tunnel.
That cement feel, that smell, just everything leading out in that field. It's a cool environment.
Yeah. Well, come home from that for week 10 to face the Saints. That's the first divisional game since week 3. You go from week 3 to week 10 with no divisional opponents.
Yeah, that's so that's a break. So I think we all know what's going to happen from here on out. We're going to start seeing a lot of those division games, and so getting the Saints, and that's a team with a lot of question, but listen, it's a division game. I mean, this is when it starts. I mean, there's a professional hatred when you play division teams, and so hopefully, as the schedule goes, we've only up until this point we've had 2 playoff teams from the year prior. That's it. So, schedule-wise, if you look at record-wise, strength of schedule, it's pretty favorable for us this year. Now, certainly things will change with injuries, and teams will be better, and some will be worse compared to 2024. But yeah, getting the Saints at home on November 9th, and that's when you hope that you're starting to. You don't want to say the playoff push, but you're starting. You put yourself.
You're seeing some things.
Yeah, you kind of put yourself in position to kind of go forward.
Yeah. Have another divisional opponent the next week. Go on the road to Atlanta. That's a quasi home game. That trip is so short. But yeah, back-to-back divisional opponents there with Atlanta. But then I'm going to move on to week 12 here because this is where it kind of gets interesting. Week 12, they will go on the road to San Francisco. That is a Monday Night Football primetime game. It'll be 4:15 in San Francisco, but it'll be 8:15 primetime game. I've heard coaches give me both sides of the argument for if you have a primetime game and it's not a Sunday night game, would you rather it be Thursday or would you rather it be Monday? And some coaches like that you get an extra day to prepare when it's on Monday, and other coaches hate that you then lose that extra day to prepare for the following week. So what does it look like to have a Monday night game here at week 12, and especially a West Coast one at that?
Well, I hear what you're saying, and that's something that, I can attest to that. I know for me as a player, I love playing a team off of a Monday night game because especially if they were a road
like
team.
You wanted your opponent to be coming off a Monday night
game?
Because
you always felt like, hey, they're 37 hours less in preparation, body-wise, and things like that. And we're starting to get in that push later in the season. This is November 24th. The body's affected starting in training camp. But really, sometimes you can have some attrition at that point. And so going to San Fran, Monday night game, and we didn't have a Monday night game last year for the Panthers.
Didn't have a primetime game.
Exactly. And I think we had one in 2023, but I think that was the stacked doubleheader where it was 2 games on that Monday night, if I remember. So yeah, this is playing on Monday night. Players are going to be juiced. It'll be in San Fran. I'm assuming the NFL schedule makers, possibly because I know it's a few years removed, but the Christian McCaffrey,
Right.
ex-Carolina Panther. And so, yeah, San Fran, our Monday night game. But for me, I'm excited that we're going to be on national TV,
Right.
and hopefully we're playing well at that time to kind of get us back in the national spotlight.
You know, that was something Dave Canales made a point of pointing out last year when there were no primetime games on the schedule. He said, you have to earn those primetime games. And so I think it maybe says something about what this team did in the second half of last season, that maybe they've earned this primetime game.
Yeah, I hope so. You know, and that's something that I learned early in my career, to echo what Dave said. I was in New Orleans. It was the 2000 season, and the Saints were coming off of a 3-win. We had 3 wins in '99. So whole new coaching staff, front office, everything. And I never forget, the schedule came out, and Jake Reed, longtime NFL wide receiver, the first thing he got up and he spoke up and he said, guys, he goes, I don't know if you looked at the schedule. He said, every game, and New Orleans on Central Time, he said, every game's at noon.
Yeah.
He said, that's not good enough. That's not who we want to be. We want to be playing on some primetime games. Because he had come from Minnesota with the Chris Carter and the Randy Moss and the high-flying team. So that was something that always stuck with me because I was so early on in my career. But yeah, Dave was right. I mean, you have to earn those. And I think the way we kind of finished last season, I think we earned the right to be on it. So hopefully we can kind of get on that rotation.
Yeah. Do get a little bit of a reprieve in the sense that the game coming off of that Monday night game is a home game, so you don't have to go back out on the road. Face another NFC West opponent with the Rams coming to town there in Week 13. Another team that could go so – it could be on completely two different ends of the spectrum. We have no idea where they could be right now, but you're still going to get Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, you're still going to get a really good quarterback. Well, he's borderline great quarterback. I mean, I think just showing my leaving to Detroit and what he's done in LA, and that's a team they're quietly. I know they think they're a Super Bowl football team. Mm-hmm. I think they think they're a close team. And look, they play Philadelphia,
and they're only a couple of years removed from one.
Yeah, and they've done a good job of drafting. They've hit some young kids, and they've done a good job. So Sean McVay, he's up there with one of the better coaches in the league. So yeah, short week, but then again, it's at home. It's November 30th. This team has been on a big run. You know, we played a lot of football, hadn't had a break, and so you just kind of you just got to burn the candle at both ends. I mean, you just got to get ready, give everything, and come back home and have a good game against the Rams, and then you could have a little present at the end of that.
Yeah, all of that to say, I don't know if at that point it's when you need it most or when you're desperate for it. But finally, a Week 14 bye. If you're a player and you look at a schedule and you see a bye in the month of December, what goes through your mind?
Yeah, I'm telling you, to be quite honest, I'm not so sure. Gosh, I hadn't played in 14 or 15 years, whatever it may be, but I'm not so sure that the buys went into December back when I played, because it was only one of 16 game season. It wasn't 17. So yeah, that's a late buy, and yeah, your body's gonna want it, right? Mm-hmm. And just, you know, you're thinking, and it's like, okay, it's in December and it's Christmas time. And so, like, players, there's going to be so much going on, you know, right. But you just need a rest. And hopefully you need a rest in a good way and let your mind kind of settle just a little bit, because you're coming back with 4 games and you're hoping it's that big playoff push. I mean, this is what you play for. I mean, you want meaningful games in November and especially December.
I mean, to your point, you come back from the bye with 4 games left. 3 of them are divisional games, and we'll go through them real quick here. But 3 of your last 4 being divisional games, that could be your season.
It could be your season, and that's a good thing. I like that. I know as a player, I think you're very familiar with your division opponents, right? Yeah, you should be. And so you're going to see them a ton on film, and even on, like, if you're not playing, so like, we'll be playing Atlanta, so we'll be watching Atlanta's defense and offense and the special teams. But you're going to start to see those division opponents in that tape when you're digesting that tape. So you know who those division opponents are, and so you kind of get some of that early film watch, I guess you could say. But yeah, you got the Saints in New Orleans. That's another thing. December. You coming out at San Fran November 24th. Weather should be okay. Maybe a little wind. November 30th, Rams in Charlotte. Love
Weather
our
be
Charlotte,
good.
right? Okay, at New Orleans, December 14th, climate control, 72 degrees, right? That's perfect. So you get a division game, and then after that December 14th game, I'll let you get on week 16.
Yeah, you come back home to play Tampa Bay. First time you've played Tampa Bay all season. They're in week 16. Um, uh, Tampa Bay is two of the last three. I mean, I'll run through this really quick, and then we can just break down these last three.
Sure.
Tampa Bay week 16 at home. Week 17 is Seattle at home, presumably a Saturday game. That is subject to change with flex, but as of right now, the NFL has it penciled in as a Saturday game. And then go back on the road week 18 for Tampa Bay to close out the schedule and to close out those division games. So I know it's not necessarily uncommon to get one divisional opponent in a short span of time, especially at the end of the season. I want to say that happened with Tampa Bay last year as well. I'm trying to remember exactly where they landed. But yeah, what does that give you? How much of an advantage and or disadvantage is that to have a divisional opponent, within 3 weeks of each other, or does it work the same for them and that kind of all cancel each other out?
Well, I think it works for the same for both teams, but I know if I'm gonna look at it from a Panther lens, I'm gonna say I love this. We're playing a team that's won the division the last few years, and that's what I'm excited about. That's a good football team, Tampa, and you would assume that team would be in the mix. So if we're in the mix, what more could you ask for? You have Tampa, and the thing that I kind of like about it, if you look at the back half, after the Monday night on November 24th, there's not a lot of travel involved.
Right. I mean, the only travel is to New Orleans and Tampa.
Exactly. New Orleans and Tampa. And we both know those are hour and 15-minute flights, whatever. Not 4. That's those and then 3 home games mixed in. So I love that. New Orleans on the 14th. Then you have Tampa on the 21st. And you play Seattle and to be determined, we're not sure yet on that Saturday. But again, I think players will look at it like, hey, we're on normal week schedule, right? Yes, we have a Monday night and there's a Saturday, but that's just a day difference. It's not like we're thrown in there on Black Friday or we're thrown in there
on Christmas.
So that's something that, and this means something. Guys with families, and when Coach Canales is making the schedule and things like that, like that's all gets factored in. But to play Tampa, Seattle, they got to come to Carolina, and then we go to Tampa. I mean, how great would it be up for the NFC South on week 18 in Tampa?
Right.
Weather should be good. That's going to be early January in Tampa. So yeah, exciting. I like the way the schedule kind of lays out for us. I think it's a favorable schedule. It's favorable when you play well and you win, right? So,
right. It's only favorable if you win.
Sure.
But and then Seattle getting late there too. I'm sure that'll be an interesting game for Dave Canales. Obviously, it's not in Seattle. That might make it a little different. He talked about having a moment of like reflection playing in Tampa last year. I'm sure playing Seattle will be even more so. But that is a different coaching staff, a lot of different players. Something that's kind of interesting about Seattle is they now have Cooper Kupp. So, what does that do for their offense? But I'm sure going into week 17, we'll have a much better idea of what that looks like with Cooper Kupp.
It will. Yeah, and I think the thing that will kind of be interesting, and I don't know if we'll ever revisit this when we're taping, but if we would revisit it later in the season just to see, like, listen, there's going to be injuries, right? It's going to be players. Who's going to be, a rookie star that nobody really thought
Who's going to be the Jalen Coker of this year?
I mean, yeah, you just don't know what's how it all shakes out. If you go back, if we're looking at this schedule, and this is the 24th schedule, right? And you see San Fran November 24th, you're like, all right, that's going to be a doozy because they're going to have 10, 11 wins at that time.
Right.
If you go back to last year, they were just a depleted football team, injury after injury, and they weren't the same football team. They couldn't really stop anybody. So you just don't know how the whole season will play out, where it can go south or it can go the other way. So this is something that when you look at it, I think you kind of – that's why it's given in the offseason. You take a look at it, you kind of, all right, this is what I think is going to happen. But once the season starts, it is 1 week at a time. I mean, you just kind of go forward 1 week at a time. Where do we play? When do we need to leave? What time do we play?
Right.
I got to. That's just.
Where are my shoes? Like, where are my shoes when I get there?
Last 9 games on this schedule is all NFC opponents. So we knock out our AFC opponents early. And then what? We have 5 of our 6 division games from November 9th on. So it's it's weighted toward the back end of the schedule, especially for, if you want to, hopefully playoffs could be something that we can maybe start to kind of, we need to play good, right? But like, why not, right? Why not? We play good football and give ourselves a position to maybe have a chance.
A couple of things, now that we've gone through all this, a couple of things that I extrapolated, and then I want to hear your thoughts as well before we wrap up. Going back again to the weather, people are going to be like, man, they talked about the weather a lot. But it feels like Jacksonville and that early Falcons game at home are kind of the only like hot games, really, potentially for hot games. And then to get New York and Green Bay during the fall, October, early November, honestly couldn't have asked for anything better there, I don't think. And then,
well, it's not only that. I think a lot of it, I know for me, it's a win game. I go back.
Oh, that's a good point.
Our 08 season, we had the last game of the season. I think it was December 28th. We were playing the New York Giants, and it got flexed to Sunday evening, and whoever won that game had home field advantage throughout the playoffs. And so that got flexed. Well, it became a 2-quarter game, and what I mean by that, the wind, it was so cold, so windy, that there was no attempting of trying to throw the football in the first or third quarter or second and fourth, whenever you were going into the
whichever
wind.
way you were facing it, yeah.
Didn't happen. And they played the win. We went into overtime, and they played the win because we had a field goal kick that John Casey could have made in his sleep. But the wind was so severe. I mean, he had to aim so far outside of if you're looking at the uprights, the left upright, and the ball ended up 20 yards past the right upright. I mean, he just tried to play it. So that's something that I think you factor in. I know for me, someone who threw the football, what is the win situation like? And so, Atlanta at home, September 21st, I think we're going to be so acclimated from the heat going to Jacksonville. And yes, you're traveling to Arizona, that's indoors, but still, I think weather-wise, we can put an A+ by the schedule, to be quite honest.
Yeah, that's a really good point about the wind, too. I'd not even considered that factor of it. I did want to ask you one other thing that just kind of jumped out at me, and I wanted your opinion. Starting with 2 road games is whatever, but you're starting with 2 road games that one is the East Coast, one is the West Coast, and 2 completely different, I guess, effects on your body in terms of where you're at. You're on the Atlantic coast, you're in the desert. What does that do? How much do you start preparing for that if you're a player? Like that week before, do you start kind of just preparing your body for like, okay, I'm about to be on a plane a lot. I'm going one coast to another back-to-back weekends. Like, do you think too much about that, or is that kind of overthinking it?
I think the way sports science has developed and the way guys train now, and you have an idea of the speeds at practice with everything that they wear. So you have a pretty good idea and to get your body hydrated. But, I think the thing I look at Jacksonville, that's a short flight, right? That's just a quick little flight. You're going to be home at a decent time on a Sunday evening to fly the next week. And I can't recall if Coach Canales is a guy that likes to leave on Friday or not. I'm trying
He's a Saturday guy.
He's a Saturday guy, yeah. And I've always been a Saturday guy. I like that. You get in, you head to Arizona. And so, I think the way guys take care of themselves and the sports science, sports nutrition, that, we're usually on top of that.
Yeah. Was there anything that kind of jumped out at you about this schedule? I know we haven't been looking at it long, but
the big thing for me was all the division games late. And I'll be honest, I love Tampa 2 out of the last 3. That was something that jumped out to me when at first glance. You kind of look in, okay, where's the cold game? Okay, boom, check. We don't have one. Where are the division games? So where's the Monday night game? Where's the Sunday night? Are we, what? Or do we have a Thursday night or somewhere? So it's kind of one of those. But I look at it. I think the thing that sticks out to me, we have Tampa 2 out of the last 3. So let's give ourselves an opportunity, because I'm under the assumption that Tampa's going to be a solid football team. I think they've earned that right. That they have to be considered a solid football team, and so I'd have a feeling they're going to be there at the end. And so I love that. I love Tampa 2 of the last 3.
Yeah, it should be exciting. Now we just got to get there. No big deal.
Yeah.
It'll be here before we know it.
Yeah, there's no doubt. It'll be here before we know it. Second phase of OTA is going on right now. The rookies are getting acclimated with the veterans. So, yeah, it's it'll be here before we know it. And that's the thing that I just don't know, rookie-wise, when they're going to see the schedule and like what is their mindset about it? I don't
Yeah.
think they really understand. It's different. The NFL is different. It's a grind, and you've got to get yourself mentally and physically prepared week in and week out. And a late bye, very, very late bye. So it's not something you can worry about. I think it's something you think about when it happens. Oh, let's enjoy it. I think that's kind of how you have to look at it.
I did just actually think about one other thing as we were saying this part. So much of week 1 is probably going to be focused on Travis Hunter and what he does for Jacksonville. Week 2 could be interesting because I know it's the Cardinals, but still going back to Arizona, that'll be a homecoming for T-Mac. Could that be his first, chance to step out on the big stage and let us see what he can do. So.
Yeah, exactly right. And you have so many of those, in free agents when they sign somewhere and things like that. But yeah, the Jacksonville, that's going to be a game that you're going to have to study Tampa Bay. That's what you're going to be studying. That's what Cohen did, and some of the things that he had done. Well, really and truly, is college. He was a coordinator in college because he came from the Rams, and McVay was calling those plays. So it's there'll be a big question mark, and what are they going to look like, Jacksonville?
Yeah, cannot wait to get there. Jake will be there with us for a good bit of these games as well. Like we said, you can catch him on Panthers Radio as the analyst there. Jake, I don't think I have anything else to say, but
I'm excited. It's I always look forward to when the schedule comes out, and it's I don't know. To me, it's like, all right, now we know.
Now it's here, yeah.
Now we know, and hopefully OTAs can continue progressing really well and finish up strong, and we'll be a new football team, a lot of new faces, right? That's part of the NFL, but a lot of new faces. And I think the big thing I always look at is that where can we get a draft class that we can go back and hang our hat on and say, like, that was the draft class. And so, love what we did in the draft. It seems like, just from the outside looking in and listening to these interviews with these guys, there's a lot of guys that they enjoy playing football. I'll go back to it, and I think Dan Morgan has hit it from his first press conference. You gotta have guys that love football and love to compete. Those are the things, I think, that just kind of brings a team together. I know the best teams I've ever been on are guys that love football and they love to compete. And that's the thing that I know Canales has brought the Seattle way. That was the whole Pete Carroll, to bring in competition. It makes everybody better. And so, kind of like what we've been doing.
Dan said something about that to me at the Senior Bowl a few months ago. And when he did, I kind of like made a face. And I said, well, isn't that obvious? And he said, you would be surprised how many of these guys don't love it.
Yeah, and they're good at it. You know why? Because the good Lord bless them.
Right.
They're talented. They don't love it. You got to love it. I mean, you have to embrace the grind. It's difficult. It's hard, especially with the media scrutiny and things like that. But look, it is what it is. I mean, like, not everybody can do this. And so, but you got to have guys that love it, and they have to just kind of embrace those hard times, because it's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard, but I think Dan hit it on the head. You would be surprised.
Yeah. Well, we're excited to see this draft class on the field as well with the 2025 Panthers. Like I said, Jake will be there for most of these games with Panthers Radio as well, so make sure to catch him there. Jake, thank you as always for your time. This has been so fun.
I appreciate it, Cassidy. It's a lot of fun. It's always great to talk about the upcoming season, and we're undefeated right now, right? We're undefeated, so keep going.
Yeah, Super Bowl's in San Francisco this year, I think. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Jake, thank you as always. We will talk to you next time. Stay tuned to Panthers.com for more insight, analysis, and information on the 2025 schedule.